Administrators face a number of decisions when considering a purchase. Identifying the need and researching possible solutions to satisfy the need mark initial steps. Based on the estimated purchase price, the superintendent or designee may employ a price quotation, request for bids, competition, or sealed competitive bid because procurement adheres to strict observance of associated state statutes, board policies, and regulations regarding each type of action. Each state and the District of Columbia procurement law typically presents directives and threshold levels for these purchasing practices. Some states or school boards may mandate that districts acquire a price quotation in lieu of competitive bidding when the purchase costs beneath a certain dollar threshold. A price quote aims to ascertain the lowest price on less expensive resources, thereby creating competition among vendors. Price quotes, dictated by state law, hold varying threshold levels and procedural prerequisites. School boards may enact stricter local policy for price quotations than state law requirements. A price quote exhibits less time and administrative effort than a sealed bid because detailed instructions and descriptive qualifications are not compulsory. Written specifications, however, are beneficial to compare exact quotes. Based on the estimated resource cost, a number of states permit or encourage districts to purchase resources utilizing a request for bid or proposal. A request for bid signifies a procurement method that exceeds price quote obligations but falls short of competitive sealed bid commitments. Based on related state law or board policy, a request for bid may involve public advertising and submitting notices to potential vendors. A request for bid does not always include specific product descriptions. Purchasing via a request for bid allows the supplier to meet general expectations and submit proposals with their own specifications. In a request for bid, school district personnel stay unobligated to select the lowest proposal. The district staff may evaluate the offers based on district needs because vendors usually present dissimilar resources of differing value. Because of this, the best price and value remain challenging to ascertain. After accepting requests for bid, staff members may modify stipulations and renegotiate the proposal terms, conditions, and prices with one or more bidders. School officers may open proposals at any time and in any manner. The school board may participate in awarding this type of bid. Competitive bidding characterizes a formal process mandated by state law when individuals or firms submit bids to supply a resource to government agencies, including school districts. Procurement law for each state generally contains minimum cost thresholds for competitive bidding with advertising regulations, performance bid bond directives, emergency procurement exceptions, and procedures to award and reject bids. Contract law principles such as offer and acceptance apply to agreements let under competitive bidding, and accepted competitive bids stand irrevocable.
A performance bond, also known as a contract bond, is a surety bond issued by an insurance company or a bank to guarantee satisfactory completion of a project by a contractor. The term is also used to denote a collateral deposit of good faith money, intended to secure a futures contract, commonly known as margin. A job requiring a payment and performance bond will usually require a bid bond to bid the job. When the job is awarded to the winning bid, a payment and performance bond will then be required as a security to the job completion. For example, a contractor may cause a performance bond to be issued in favor of a client for whom the contractor is constructing a building. If the contractor fails to construct the building according to the specifications laid out by the contract, most often due to the bankruptcy of the contractor, the client is guaranteed compensation for any monetary loss up to the amount of the performance bond. Performance bonds are commonly used in the construction and development of real property, where an owner or investor may require the developer to assure that contractors or project managers procure such bonds in order to guarantee that the value of the work will not be lost in the case of an unfortunate event, such as insolvency of the contractor. In other cases, a performance bond may be requested to be issued in other large contracts besides civil construction projects. Another example of this use is in commodity contracts, where the seller is asked to provide a bond to reassure the buyer that if the commodity being sold is not in fact delivered, for whatever reason, the buyer will at least receive compensation for his lost costs. Performance bonds are generally issued as part of a performance and payment bond, where a payment bond guarantees that the contractor will pay the labor and material costs they are obliged to. Surety bond companies calculate the premium they charge for surety bonds based on three primary criteria: 1. Bond type; 2. Bond amount; 3. The applicant's risk. Once the bond type, amount, and applicant risk are adequately assessed, a surety bond underwriter is able to assign an appropriate surety bond price. Surety bond companies have actuarial information on the lifetime claims history for each bond type. Over time, surety bond underwriters are able to determine that some surety bonds are more risky than others. For example, a California motor vehicle dealer bond has significantly more claims than a straightforward notary bond. If a given surety bond type has paid out a high percentage of claims, then the premium amount paid by applicants will be higher. Surety bond companies attempt to predict the risk that an applicant represents. Those who are perceived to be a higher risk will pay a higher surety bond premium. Since surety bond companies are providing a financial guarantee on the future work performance of those who are bonded, they must have a clear picture of the individual's history. In the United States, under the Miller Act of 1932, all construction contracts issued by the federal government must be backed by performance and payment bonds. States have enacted what is referred to as Little Miller Act statutes requiring performance and payment bonds on state-funded projects as well. There are over 25,000 types of surety bonds in the United States. Each bond has a designated bond amount. Surety bond companies will determine bond rate based on risk and then charge a surety bond premium in the range 1-15% of the bond amount.
A sealed competitive bid, directed by state law, derived from the offline world, with bids independently submitted in sealed envelopes, securely stored in a named location, openly viewed at a public forum, and publicly announced at a specified time, date, and place. This purchasing approach ensures that the school district does not interfere with the bids nor steer the selection. In sealed competitive bidding, school district personnel cannot share bid offers in advance of the official opening date, nor permit an enterprise to adjust a bid after the final submission deadline. Web applications in today's world facilitate an electronic version of the sealed bid. Bidders submit bids as form entries, attach documents through a secure login on the application, and edit the bid anytime until the submission deadline. An electronic signature authorizes bids. By electronically submitting a bid, the technology tools safeguard the district management's integrity throughout the process and deliver a centralized, collaborative workspace for viewing and evaluating bids. Competitive bids shall be solicited in connection with all purchases over a particular threshold set by the state procurement bid law. All public work contracts involving constructing a new building as well as remodeling an old structure must be placed for bid and competitively awarded. Other fixed assets such as school equipment, furniture, and buses must be bid. The steps with a competitive bid are to identify the project scope and need with a determined process, create the bid documents with instructions, specifications, public notice, and evaluation criteria to judge bids, and hold a public meeting to open all submitted bids. After the public meeting, school personnel should prioritize the entries by lowest responsible bids and check references and reviews. Decide the lowest responsible bid and recommend the successful bidder to the school board. After the school board approval, the bid should be awarded. Later, a staff member should notify the bidders, return the performance bonds to the unsuccessful bidders, and originate a purchase order for the contract. While the work is in progress, school personnel should monitor the contract work in accord with specifications. After the work is completed, the staff should conduct a final inspection and accept the contracted work. Authorizing the payment of contract invoices based on fulfillment of agreed-upon terms is the final step of a competitive bid. Under the special circumstances, the purchase may be exempt from state procurement law, although the projected price exceeds legal thresholds. Procurement law in most states excuses districts from competitive bid obligations in contracts with textbook businesses, computer stores, utility companies, health insurance firms, and professional services by accountants, attorneys, auditors, and others who offer a special skill. State procurement law generally exempts the district from competitive bid regulations when a district confirms a public emergency, demands a special skill, specifies a unique item, or verifies a sole provider. For instance, in the case of an emergency that warrants urgent attention in Ohio, a school district may forego competitive bid stipulations in order to remedy the circumstance. The school board, by resolution, declares that the situation presents an urgent necessity due to possible serious harm to district property or an individual's health and safety. When a school district fails to comply with procurement statute regulations in any way, the contract is null and unenforceable, and district personnel must begin the bidding process from the start when they want to obtain the resource. All states and the District of Columbia have formal protest mechanisms within statutes in case of a suspected competitive bid violation. A bidder or interested party adversely affected in connection with a bid solicitation, award, or contract administration may file a complaint. However, the definition of objections, filing prerequisites, hearing officer duties, and response times vary by state. Non-public schools across the country, administered by a variety of governance models, hold much latitude in developing operational policies and practices regarding procurement, including competitive bidding. To guarantee that non-public schools astutely spend dollars with market-driven prices, administrators nonetheless should implement the practices to receive the best price for purchased resources, including the processes for price quotation, requests for bids, competitive or sealed competitive bids. Freedom from the rules and regulations, including procurement, highlights a public charter school hallmark across the nation for those states that permit charter schools. A majority of states in the District of Columbia grant significant freedom from laws and regulations to public charter schools. Each jurisdiction differs regarding legal exemptions for charter schools. Check out your state to see where it stands.